We know in our own lives, there's times when Iman is higher and times when it's lower. We know when it's higher because our state with Allah is stronger. We're more aware of the hudud. We're more aware of wrong. If we do something wrong, it has more import. I know somebody, we were with somebody the other day, and they missed Fajr, and he said that he spent a period of time doing muhasabah from the day before, trying to figure out what he did that deprived him from missing the Fajr. That's a hal, that's a level of awareness of your Lord in your deen that a lot of people don't have, because a lot of people don't think about things like that, of why certain things, because if you're not, why certain things happen relating to your deen. People that are deprived of, if you had a wird of Quran and then suddenly you're not doing it anymore, what happened? That's something that was taken away. It was a ni'mah that was taken away from you. And that's the nature of the deen, is that we can lose these blessings. So when the Prophet ﷺ said, none of you truly believes until his passion, his HAWA, and passionate is a good translation for HAWA. Passion is a theological term that's used by the Christians, which is an inclination, an appetite, from apatere, to seek something. It's an inclination, it's a hawa, yahwi ilay. Allah describes the af'ida, the hearts, as tahwi ilay, that they incline towards Mecca. The hearts of some of the people, minan nas, that some of the people, afidata minan nas, tahwi ilayha, that some of the hearts of the people incline. So there's a hawa is an incline. Wa najmi idha hawa, the star when it descended, right, moving down towards the horizon. So passion is a movement. It's a haraka fi nafs. It's a movement in the self to something. Now, passion, when the Prophet ﷺ said, you don't believe until your passion is in accordance with my religion, that is hawa yuwafiq al-shara'. Now, some of our natural passions, because passions fall into different categories. One of the categories is natural passions. Natural passions are those passions that we have just as our fitra nature. Eating is a natural passion. That's an appetite. It's a sensitive appetite. Sexual desire is a natural appetite. Now, these desires, if they're constrained by the intellect, are in accordance with the Sharia. But then when they go outside of the constraints of reason, of the intellect, then they become something else. So for instance, Allah says, Kulu washarabu wa la tusrifu. Inna Allah la yuhibbul musrifin. Eat and drink, but not to excess. So the first is the hawa in accordance with the shara', because you naturally have a desire for food. So your desire for food is a natural inclination. And if it's within the bounds of reasonableness, then it's in accordance with the shara'. But if it goes outside of those bounds, it's no longer in accordance with the shara'. You've entered into israf and tabdhir. And Allah says those are the brethren of shaitan. The shayateen, they're the brothers of the shayateen, the people that are extravagant. And this is what Imam al-Ghazali is arguing. And so he has the book of, he begins it with eating and drinking. We eat with no presence anymore. People used to take time before they ate and said grace. Even in this country, people would stop before they ate and they would thank their Lord for the gifts which they were about to receive. This was common practice, being present with food. People used to be present when they cooked food. They cooked food with love. I had one teacher, one of my teachers, Omar Malahji, his wife would cook her food, doing prayer on the Prophet the entire time with niyatu shifa, that God would make that food a healing for the people that ate it and make the energy that they derive from it used for worshiping Allah. They would only buy from grocers in Medina that they knew prayed 5 times in the prayer in the masjid. They would go out and pick their own animals and sacrifice them because they didn't want to buy meat from these butchers that they didn't know how they were treating the animals. This is a real family that I have visited over the years. It is a fact, and I guarantee you many people have experienced this. If you go and have eaten a full meal, and you go there and they serve you food in the house of Omar Malahji, you will not get indigestion by eating a second meal immediately after that at his house. And many people have testified to this because they will force you to eat. They will say, Kul, kul, kul. They say, Kul karrijal wa ibka jimal. You know, eat like men and drink like camels. That food was made with presence. We forget, people don't have energy anymore. How is your food being manufactured? How is it being grown? How is it being cooked? Because this is where energy comes from. It comes from, that's the sabab for the energy that we live on is caloric. It's heat derived from these means that God has given us. So he talks about being present when you eat, chewing your food, being grateful. Not putting another morsel in until you finish chewing the morsel that's in your mouth, because he says this is from gluttony. To don't eat quickly. To eat with gratitude. Never mention death at the table. He says death is not an appropriate, because he said if your heart is alive and people mention death at eating, you should lose your appetite, and if you don't, it's a sign that your heart is dead. Wendell Berry the other night talked about people now reading about massacres or watching them on television while they're eating their dinners. And it has no effect on them. This is from deadened hearts. We're no longer feeling. So that's an example of a HAWA, a natural HAWA. And then you have also the passion of the spiritual passions. So there are spiritual passions. For instance, people have desire for God. That's a human desire to know God. It's a natural inclination of the soul to know their Lord, because it's part of our fitrah, and it's one of the reasons and the primary reason that we were created. So, but that in and of itself can become excessive. So when it leaves the boundaries of the Sharia, when your search for God leaves the boundaries of Sharia, and you become excessive in something, for instance, total rejection of other people that aren't in pursuit of what you know to be true, things like that. Also a type of extremism, إِيَّاكُمْ وَالْغُلُوَّ فِي الدِّينِ. Beware of extremism in the religion. Ghulu is from ghalaya, to boil over. Ghalayan, it's to boil over, where you become so zealous that you transgress the limits, because that's what boiling over is. You're going outside of the pot, right? I mean, everybody's had that experience in the kitchen when the soup or something suddenly goes over. You're wasting it now. The purpose was to cook it, but now something else has happened. It's boiled over, so something's gone wrong, and it creates a mess. And this is what happens when the religious appetite becomes excessive, extreme, where it's not within the constraints of the Sharia. So this is important to note, that what the Prophet ﷺ is telling us is that you have to be within the limits. That when your hawa is in accordance with the hudud that my tradition has laid down, then you truly believe. That's why لا تطروني كما أطرت النصارى عيسى ابن مريم. Don't go to excess about me like the Christians went to excess about Jesus. Because the Christians didn't do that out of hatred for Jesus. They did it out of love of Jesus. It was excessive love. Just like some of the Muslim sects that deviated said things about Ali out of excessive love for Ali. There's even a group that said he was God, an incarnate of God, which is one of the miracles of Islam. Because nobody has ever said in the history of Islam that the Prophet was an incarnate of God.